Alrighty folks, back here with Pearl again. Just went and got her out of the pen. So she's always a little nervous. She's always jumping around, skittish and stuff. But today, like I talked about in the last video, we're going to be talking about hindquarter control. But before I do hindquarter control, I'm going to just do a little bit of a recap with forward motion on cue. Just kind of take some of her edge off, let her express herself a little bit, and then we'll get into hindquarter control. This way. She's always a real nervous horse when she comes out. That's just her nature. So I like to give her a little bit of time to just kind of blow a little bit. Good girl. Last time we took and trimmed her feet, and they look really nice now. Trimmed her front feet and her back feet. She's doing really good. So now I'm going to talk about hindquarter control. And most everybody has heard this. If you're in the horse world, the horsemanship world, you've heard of hindquarter control. Now, I think a lot of people hear it but don't understand the concept of it and don't understand how it pertains to controlling the animal in everyday situations. A lot of people talk about disengaging the hindquarters when a horse wants to run or buck, and those things are there. You can use it for that. But getting the horse to understand your pressure, getting the horse to understand to be sensitive in particular body parts when you're on the ground and when you're riding them, gives you the ability to work with that horse more in real life situations. One of the biggest problems I see with people is they try to go straight towards the hindquarters. That particularly will not work with a horse that's real spooky. I'm going to keep my left hand up. I'm going to be going around to the left. I'm going to block her eye, and I'm going to walk a circle around to her hip. And you can see there she's pretty leery, so I'm just going to walk around to her hip. Now, one of the things you're going to see here is you're going to see her inside hind cross up and over her outside hind. So right now her left hind, we'll just block her there. I don't want her front end moving. I'll throw my elbow up, block that eye. We've taught this horse that this means move your shoulder. That's pressure. So we can effectively now control her head and neck somewhat and keep her shoulder blocked here by holding pressure up. And I just want her to step up and over. Now, one of the things I'm developing is her in relation to me. The pressure that I present is she is responding to my particular position, my particular body language. So coming in here, and I want that hindquarters to move. Now, let's do the other side here. I'm gonna block her eye. I'm gonna walk around to her hip. And I'm putting all my focus on her hip right there. She shortchanged me a little bit, shortchanged. I really want her on her front end. There was the first crossover. Shortchanged, shortchanged, shortchanged. I might have to put a little bit more pressure on that eye. Really want her reaching up and across her outside hind. She has nipped at me here before because she doesn't like being pushed around. So she'll kind of run into my shoulder there. I might just ask her to move off of me there. There again, I've effectively taught her to move that shoulder. There, much better. She wants to just come into me with that shoulder. I'm gonna push that shoulder off. Cross that inside hind up and cross the outside. Very good. Now there's a lot of things happening here. If I didn't ever work on her when I was asking her to go forward, if I didn't ever ask her for her head and get her soft, where I pull on the rein and release, then when I come in here and push her hip and pull on her head if I need to, she would really be fighting me. So if you've got a really stiff horse, trying to do this right here without first getting their head and neck kind of soft on the lunge, she really wants to push into me here. It's going to be hard for you. So I really want her soft. You see, when I pull on her face, I just barely pull. I don't even have a hold of this rope. There we go. Good girl. So what I'm wanting out of her is I'm wanting her, when I put pressure on that hip, I want her to transfer her weight to her front end and just have that hindquarters move around. Later on, when I'm in the saddle, she's going to take, and she may want to run away. She may want to do something silly. I can reach up, touch her face, pull her face to me, and I can put pressure on her hip with my foot, and I can disengage her hindquarters and control her. But the old adage is, if her hip's going away from me, her face is coming to me. Generally, when a horse wants to buck or rear or fight you, they're locking up. So this not only helps disengage those hindquarters, it also helps bring that head to me. There we go. This side. I'll just kind of point at her hip with this stick. She likes to short change me on this side and doesn't like to reach up and across. I really want her to extend up and under herself here. She stopped on me, so I'll just give her a little tap. There we go, good. That was the best one yet. So when I'm doing this, a lot of times I will ask a horse to move their feet. Give them that opportunity to stop. Good girl. Then I'm going to come back in here. Ask them again. I like for a horse to be fluid, and a lot of times if that horse is balking or not giving me the extension I want, sometimes you just need to move them out, run them around, and let them get freed up in their mind, and then they move a lot better. There, she moved a lot better for me. Good. I really like her form. I'm looking for that softness through her shoulder, through her head and neck. I'm wanting that hip to just move around there. I really don't want her front end moving a whole lot. Right there, if you guys can see that or not, she's drilling her inside front right into the ground. Good girl. Good girl, baby. Good girl. Good girl. Yeah. Good girl. So that's what I'd like to see out of this side. I'd like to see that inside hind to just sit still. She's really giving me that extension I'm looking for. She wanted to bite me a little bit. I just said no. There we go. Good girl. Good girl. So she'll get kind of nippy. She don't like being pushed on, so she kind of lipped me right there on the elbow, and I just bumped her with it and said, no, don't do that. So move her around now. Now we're going to put forward motion on cue and hindquarter control together. So instead of me stopping and letting her stop, I'm going to pull her head to me and push her hindquarters away from me. That's effectively a one rein stop. So I'm going to ask her to go forward. We're going to go forward. I'm going to pull her head and push her hip. That's effectively a one rein stop. So I'm gonna do it again till she comes to rest. I'm gonna get her excited. I really want this to work in a bad situation. Send her forward again. Come on. Push on that hip. You're going forward again. Push on that hip. So this is what I'll work on until she just gives me that hip every time. Let her go here a little bit. And I'll just step in here and push that hip. She's the kind of horse that will get on the end of a rope and just kind of ignore you. She's happy moving. That's her go-to. Push that hip. Still going with that hip to there. There. Well, she don't like it too much. What I'm basically doing here is just a whole lot of one ring stop. I'm picking up on her head. Pick up on her head and I'm driving that hip. If she don't stop, I'll just drive that hip some more. Pick up on her head and I'm going to drive that hip till she faces me. Good girl. So now she's watching me. She says, do you really want me to go? So now I'm getting somewhere with her. She's getting a lot better at giving me that hip. She's got her head and neck to me. She's watching me. I'll push that hip. Really push that hip. Girl. I'll do it in a different spot this time. I'll send her out. I'll just stop that hip. Really don't want to here. I'll just kind of push her around there. Don't come into me. I'll reach out, push that hip. Very good. Again. Push that hip. Oh. She really likes to come into me, and she's looking for comfort and she's looking for reassurance, but she's so nervous. If something over there happens, we got the wind blowing on the tarp over here, she's able to get right into me, so I really have to be careful that she doesn't, particularly when I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. So now I'll come back in here and just push that hip, walk out and around to that hip. Look how soft she is here. I even got my hand on this rope. Just run across my thumb. Good girl. She's a little bit sticky on this side. Now I'll pick up on her head and pick up on her head there. Good girl. Good girl, baby. All right. So she's kind of nervous. I'm just going to do a little bit of desensitization. These nervous horses, I like to tap. I like to rub real vigorously. They really need to get over this. She's real nervous. And if you don't, she'll end up throwing somebody one day, spooking, running off, that sort of thing. So she's generally nervous when she first comes out. And then she kind of gets over it. Right now I'm not asking her to do anything. She sees my body language. I'm not looking at her. I'm not being intent on her. She knows that this is desensitizing. Good girl. Good girl. We've done a lot of this. We see she jumps. And that's fine. I don't want a horse dead. And I don't mind them spooking in place. Just don't want them running over me. So, hindquarter control. Review here real quick, and then I'm going to put it together a little bit differently. We're going to not just disengage the hindquarters, we're going to use it to build muscle and to build balance. So, hindquarter control, come out and around to that hip. You can block with your inside hand. I want her to just drill that inside foot right in the ground, like she's doing there. Good girl. Come in here. This is her sticky side. That's fine. Push that shoulder off of me there. See, right there, pushed it off of me. All right. So now we're going to use hindquarter control and forward motion together to build balance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drive this horse out, be a little bit tighter rein. I'm going to ask her to move forward and move her hip over. That was maneuver one. Move her hip over. Go forward, move your hip over. Move your hip over. Good girl. Move that hip over. Good girl. I'll ask her to go. Move that hip. Go. Move that hip. And what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for her to reach her inside hind up and across her body and get to the most center point she can get on her body and bear that weight there. Now what's happening is she's stretching when she does that. When she's bent and going forward, she's stretching all the muscles. Let me get her over here with the camera. When she's bent the other way, she's stretching all the muscles from her pole here, all the way through her loin, and all the way down to her croup. Go forward. And I'm just going to push on that hip, drive her off, push on that hip. This is where it starts. Now I want that hip to go away. She doesn't move that hip over. There you go, good. Cool. Move that hip, push her out. So now she's reaching up and across her body. We take and we say, work one side of the horse at a time. You got to work both sides of the horse at a time. But then when we go to get on them, we want to start riding them with two hands. And not only are they not mentally prepared, they're not physically prepared. When you work a horse in this manner where they're bent and they're reaching up and across their body, then the horse is building all the muscles on one side at a time, bearing more weight as they're working. Horses are no different than any other animal, okay, or any other being. They take the path of least resistance. So if it's easy for them, they'll take and they'll do it that way, even if it's detrimental sometimes to them. So what I'm doing is I'm putting her in a position to basically build those muscles one side at a time, across her head and neck, her loin, down her croup, even down all the way down through her legs, her rear legs. So let's do this side. I'm going to push her forward. I'm going to pick up, move that hip. Go forward, move that hip. This is where it starts. Move that hip. And she's learning, not only is she learning to give and be soft, she's also learning the intricacies of reining here. Picking up on her face, moving her over. Good. That hip go out there. Push. So she's learning to read me. I'm saying go, but give me that hip. Go, give me that hip. The other thing she's learning is she's learning that her head is not connected to her feet. And a lot of people connect the horse's head to their feet, and anytime you touch their face, they get antsy. I really don't like to see that. I want a horse's head and neck to be independent from its feet. The feet are to be connected to you, your seat. Your hands are for form, whether it's a left form or a right form. And what I'm teaching her here is form. It has nothing to do with direction. I can use it to help initiate direction, but my body, whether I'm on the horse or I'm off the horse, like right here, I'm saying go that direction, move that hip. All of that is my pressure I'm pushing at her. It doesn't have anything to do with direction as far as steering the animal. I want form. Good girl. She's being a good girl now. Oh, don't get on me. Don't get on me. There you go. Good baby. Good baby. So you can use this hindquarter control. I'm putting pressure on her hindquarters. It'll move as she's moving forward. Her face is soft. She's getting more balanced. She's building muscle. So at that point, when I go to ride her and I pick up on her, not only is she mentally prepared, but her body is physically prepared where she's got more strength to be able to be put in that form and to hold that form for a longer period of time, even with my weight. So what I'm really after is a soft horse that doesn't take and fight me. Ask her to move out here. Good girl. Oh, get off of me. Get off of me. Move. Move that hip. And if you just start with one step, this is not something I've done with her a whole lot. If you just get that one step over, encourage her there. Move there. There you go. Good. She softened up. Move that hip. Good. Good girl. No, back up. Back up. So hindquarter control can be used in a lot of different ways. This is how I use it with forward motion on cue. And build muscle, get the horse softer. I've got my one range stop where I just pick up on their head and I can push their hip and they'll just stop their forward motion. So it's a really vital tool when you get out here in the real world situations. Not only can you shut the horse down, I can help the horse build muscle. I can control that hindquarters. I can drive from behind, which is really going to help when you start doing lead changes, lead departures, things like that. If you can't control that hindquarters, which is the engine of the horse, you can't control which lead you depart on. So there's a lot of things here that in the very beginning, when you start doing your groundwork with your horse, that you should be incorporating, trying to help your horse prepare mentally and physically. I see a lot of people do round pen work, and they're just getting the horse tired. Maybe they're getting it used to a saddle, but they're really not building that mental and physical strength of the horse to be prepared. When they go to get on, I've been watching some folks, they go to get on the horse, and that horse has no clue what's going on. Before you ever step foot in that stirrup, this horse should be soft. This horse should be soft. Look how soft this mare is. And that comes from groundwork. That's what groundwork's about. It's mentally and physically preparing this horse. We'll move her shoulder. So if I was on her back and I asked for her head and I give a little pressure to her hip, I could move her hip around her front end. I could diffuse a buck or diffuse a rear or whatever this horse decided it wanted to do. And all that, when the first time I get on her, it's not a foreign concept to her. She knows what I'm asking because I've asked it on the ground. So basically what I tell my students is, when I used to have students, is I'm riding this horse from the ground. I can go faster. I can shut her down. I can go the other direction. She's watching me. She's taking her leads from me. Watch. I don't even need this whip. I can just use my hands here. much like I would if I was riding this horse forward right here. I'll shut her down. Go the other direction. Shut that hip down. Good girl. You can move her hip. Move her shoulders. Move her hip. All from just 2 of our basic tools of horsemanship. I'm about out of air too, girl. Good girl. So now I'm going to take you out. I'm going to show you going over some obstacles, some things with forward motion on cue, and just play around with her a little bit. So you guys can take and check that out as we end this up. So groundwork shouldn't just be getting your horse tired. Groundwork should be preparing your horse mentally and physically to do the next step that you're going to do in the next phase of training. And I really honestly believe that most people are in a hurry. They have really kind of followed along with society. Everybody's in a hurry. I want to hurry up and get this horse started. I want 30 days. And we tend to take a certain genre or a certain event, a certain thing, and we tend to follow that, like reining, like some of these other events where colt starting, for instance, I've done colt starting. I've competed in 8. I've won 3 or 4 of them, I forget. But we're in a hurry, and I don't want to be in a hurry. I want to prepare my horse, and I'll be much farther along, and it'll save me much more headache down the road if I can put these components in this horse now, so that when I get on her back, there's no questions in her mind, and things go a lot smoother. So I can go a lot farther later, kind of like the tortoise and the hare, than just getting on her. Could I throw a saddle on her, you know, buck her out, run her around, get her tired, and get on her and ride her? Yeah, I could. But that's not what I'm about. I'm about, I used to do that. That's what I used to do. You know, get a little bit of handle on them, get a saddle on them, ride them. But with a horse like this, I would rather have a good foundation with her, so that later on in life, particularly when you have a horse like her that is a little bit hotter, a little bit more gory, she's more of a ball. I've talked about balls and blocks in the past. I don't want to have troubles with her later. I don't want any holes in her. So the more I do this type of thing, the easier it is going to be to ride her, introduce her to new things down the road, and I won't have such a fight. So I'm going to go out here and do some obstacles. I'll leave y'all with that. Remember, be not weary in well doing, for in due season ye shall reap, if you faint not. We'll see you later.
Good girl.